So 2K decided to drop the greatest 7'3" build possible when Season 5 came out, and they gave us a Victor Wembanyama template that's 7'3" with a max wingspan and gets all of his animations, even though it doesn't meet the requirements. Now, taking a look at this build at the NBA template build section, you can see this is a brand new build, and obviously the attributes on this build are actually pretty solid. Now, one very important thing before you make this build, note that you cannot customize this build at all. You have to make it exactly how you see in the My Player Builder. You just have to click finish and then go select your team, and then you can get all of the Wemby animations. Again, if you customize the build, you will not get the Wemby SIGs. And honestly, even if you don't customize it, just double check and make sure that you get all the SIGs before you put money on the build. You know how 2K is sometimes with stuff like that. But as you come out of the My Player Builder, you're going to get the Victor Wembanyama loadout screen, as you can see right here, and you're going to get the build name of Two-Way Inside the Arc Maestro. Now, I wish for these template build archetypes, they brought back the replica build names from 2K23. So if this build was called the Alien or the Extraterrestrial or Wemby or something along those lines, that would have been really, really cool. All right, so now getting out of the My Player Builder, here is the template build fully upgraded with all of the cap breakers applied. I have 14 cap breakers, and I'm going to give you guys recommendations on how I think you should upgrade this build. So let's start with the first thing, 74 vertical. That's what you need for high flying denier on silver. This build only comes with a 72, so you have to put 2 cap breakers into vertical to get high flying denier on silver, which is really nice because that's usually my go-to for max +1. So I actually have gold high flying denier on this 7-3 build. The next two main things are obviously the defensive rebound and the block. So we ended up putting 4 into defensive rebound to put it up to 96 for Hall of Fame rebound chaser, and then we also ended up putting 4 into block to get it up to 97 for Hall of Fame paint patroller. And then the last thing, and this one's not fully done, we're gonna have to wait till next season to get the full Wemby build completely realized for my build, is we're going to eventually have a 95 standing dunk for Hall of Fame rise up, but we do not have that currently because we only had 4 more cap breakers to use, which we put into standing dunk still just to get it up to 94. But next season we will have a 95 standing dunk along with everything else on this build. And honestly, overall this Wemby build is really solid, but let's talk about the most important thing with this build, which is the animations. Now, as you see on the screen right here, we do get Wemby animations on this build, and these are all the animations that I am using that I think are good. So let's talk about some of the animations that are not good, that you still might see gameplay of, but let's just talk about the animations that are not good. His layup style, poo-poo. Take it off, it's really bad. The release point on all of his layups are super low, so they're very easy to block. A perfect example of this are his Euros. His Euro step layups, every single release point of his layup is super low, so it's not that great to use. Now his free throw, his dunk style, his go-to shot, and his dribble pull-up are all really good, and I am using all of those on this build. And honestly, the most surprising thing about all his SIGs is for some reason his free throw is chicken. I don't know what it is. It is so easy to time. I've greened multiple free throws with Wemby's free throw, which for some reason in this game is not really easy to do, but for some reason with Wemby just works out for some reason. I've said some reason like 20 times here, but just stick with me. So now for the playmaking moves, let's talk about the big thing here. The dribble style, poo-poo, terrible. Take it off, switch it back to normal. Maybe I'm just using it wrong. Maybe there's some left stick dribble animations that I don't know about that makes the dribble style better, but I think normal is better overall. Regular breakdown combo, Wemby is great. Aggressive breakdown combo for Wemby is also great. His combo moves are pretty cool. His crossover might be worse than normal crossover, but I just kept it on because I don't really do crossovers a whole lot except for when in transition, semi-transition, whatnot. His crossover is cool. His combo moves are actually really cool. And again, although none of these animations are super amazing or anything, they're all better than normal, so it makes them way better to use than just the normal SIGs you would usually get. Now, although it is really cool that you can get these SIGs on a template build, I still think the ball handle requirement for all of these SIGs is ridiculously high. A 69 ball handle is kind of crazy, especially considering you can get this on the template. I wish that they dropped it down to somewhere like a 60, so a max wingspan 7'1" could get all the Wemby SIGs if you had a Wemby build that was 7'1", and I think that would have been a whole lot better. All right, so now the last thing before we get into the gameplay, here is the jump shot that I was using on this build. Base is going to be Jonathan Isaac release 1, Wemby release 2, Tim Duncan. Wemby's releases are ridiculously fast. As you can see, this jump shot speed is still maxed out to an A+, but if you didn't see, his jump shot is on 3/4 speed. So yeah, his upper releases are ridiculously fast. They might actually be meta releases. His jump shot base is low, slow, and not that great. I just couldn't time it. I had it on for a little bit. I just genuinely couldn't time the shot, so I had to switch it back to my good old sweet baby Jonathan Isaac. But overall, really like this custom. I really like the releases. And now let's get to the gameplay. I know everybody wants the gameplay. Let's get straight to the gameplay so you guys can see this build in action. And I'm going to kind of disappoint y'all just a little bit just to start things off really quickly. There aren't a whole lot of situations animations in this video where I'm getting into some crazy dribble sequences or whatnot. We might have to save that for a separate video, maybe do that in part, because a lot of times when I get the ball in rec, I'm just wide open, so I'm just gonna shoot it. I'm not gonna force 20 different dribble moves just to showcase the animations and basically intentionally play worse just to showcase the build when I'm just wide open and I can just take the catch and shoot shot. And even with that in mind, the gameplay you guys are going to see today, my shooting splits are not the most consistent that I normally get because I'm just trying to get acclimated to these SIG. I'm gonna shoot a couple pull-ups here and there. We're gonna get a nice catch and shoot 3, top of the key right there. And again, the jump shot is very fast. It's on 3/4 speed and it is still faster than my usual jump shot, which is absolutely insane. And when you combine a really fast jump shot with a 7-3 build in this game, you are just asking for all kinds of trouble. This build is now even more not contestable than it was prior to the season 5 release. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because I play center, but I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I think this is one of the best seasons that they have ever dropped. The template's good, the rewards good, yeah, it's just pretty freaking solid overall. I rarely say that about a season. I'm really happy about this season. The only unfortunate thing that makes this season kind of suck is the news that we got the day before about Victor Wembanyama. He has that deep vein thrombosis, if I believe that's what it was called, aka he's got a blood clot in his right shoulder. Now, before everybody jumps to the worst scenario possible where it's, oh my god, this is Chris Bosh 2.0, this is Chris Bosh 2.0, I just want to point out very quickly that this is actually a somewhat common injury to have for NBA players. Most recently, it happened to Asar Thompson last season. It ended his season. And it also had happened to Brandon Ingram in, I believe, 2019. Now, the reason that these type of blood clots happen is because of the repeated use of the upper extremities, especially when you're raising your arm above your head. So, for example, Wemby's constantly blocking shots, putting his hands up to contest shots, putting his arms up to shoot the ball. Repeated upper arm movement can cause some sort of problems to the veins in his arm, which can cause this type of blood clot that he currently has. Now, the good thing, or the bad thing, depending on how you look at it, it turns out that this is, from the Spurs medical staff, an isolated case to where hopefully this does not happen again, because that's what happened to Chris Bosh. It kept on happening to him over and over and over again. And if you guys do not know, for the treatments for this type of problem, you have to be on blood thinners to take care of the blood clot. And by being on blood thinners, it's very hard to play any professional sports, because if you take any sort of injury, it becomes a lot easier for you to bleed and whatnot. So that's what ended Chris Bosh's career. Hopefully this does end up being an isolated case for Wemby, so that he does not have to constantly be on blood thinners, because that would basically force him into early retirement, but he will miss the rest of the season. And then this brings into a different conversation as well, is that Wemby was the runaway DPOY candidate. Absolute guarantee that he was going to get the DPOY. Only an act of God, which was this, could have prevented him from getting the Defensive Player of the Year award. And since now he does not meet the 65 game requirement, even though he's played every single game this season for the most part, yeah, he's not going to get DPOY. And I wish that now, since this has happened, there will be a slight adjustment to the DPOY rule, to where if you have a season-ending injury, that doesn't prevent you from getting any of the NBA awards, any other awards that come along with the 65 game rule requirement. Obviously, when it comes to load managing and whatnot, and people that are just missing games throughout the season, yes, you want to make sure they play 65 games. But if somebody suffers a season-ending injury like this, for them to now not be eligible for any NBA awards is very, very frustrating, especially in this case where, again, he was a runaway DPOY, guaranteed. Like, he was going to get DPOY after DPOY after DPOY for the next 10 years. Yeah, we won't be able to see it. But enough about me yapping about medical stuff that's outside of my field and talk about basketball. Let's get back to the actual gameplay here. This build is really solid. It's going to be the best 7-3 you can ever make. I'll just put it just like that. It's going to be the best 7-3 build you can ever make, with all the problems and all the upside that you get with the 7-3. Hey, it's going to be the best version possible. Now, the only things that I would like to point out with this build is that this is a build that is much better when you are guarding inside bigs, to where you can kind of just sit in the paint, just roam around, kind of just tiptoe outside of the paint, make sure you don't get that defensive 3 in the key. But yeah, way better when you're guarding insides. When you have to guard poppers, when you have to guard people in space, that's where this build definitely starts running into issues, because it's very hard to change direction on this build because you have low agility. So you're not going to be able to turn this way, turn back that way, bait this, bait that, and then get back to the pop and whatnot. So much easier to guard insides on this build, much easier to guard the paint on this build. So if you play with a squad, you run 2-3, hey, this build is going to be great in the paint. That's going to be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. There will definitely be more videos with this build, but I'm out. Later. Love y'all.